All right, let's go. So we're in Mr. Penn's class. If you want to access the assignments, several ways to do it. The easiest way is to click assignments. And then once you click assignments, you go to your assignment. I'm going to go to Podcasting New Deal. And then once we're in Podcasting New Deal, you download the podcast. It's podcast.mp3. You double click on it. It's going to download here. At the bottom of the screen in Google Chrome, but also it downloads to the download folder here as well. Once that's downloaded, all you do is double click it and play it in iTunes. All right, let's get started. So open GarageBand. GarageBand is the guitar icon on the dock. Or you can go to the spotlight and type GarageBand or Garage, and it will open up. Select either the first one or the second one. They're both the same. Once you've got GarageBand opened, we're going to do a new project, and we are going to do a podcast. So double click podcast, give it a name, and you could call it your first name, and New Deal. And you can save it to GarageBand, that's fine, and then click Create. All right, let's go. So this is what a podcast track looks like in GarageBand. The first item you have is the track, and this is where you're going to drag your artwork to this area here. That artwork just is a symbol or a logo for your podcast. Then we also have male voice and a female voice, and then we also have jingles. On the right hand side of the screen, this is where you're going to grab your information. You're going to click on the media button, and you'll go to audio, you'll go to iTunes, and then you'll find your 23-minute FDR outlining the New Deal, and you just drag it to a new track, and then you let go. Okay, here are a couple of tips in GarageBand. Number one, make sure the entire podcast is pushed all the way to the beginning of GarageBand. That way you can maintain the timing. Also, at the bottom of the screen, make sure that this is set to time. You've got this item here that changes it from the tuner to measures, but you want to simply be in time. That way you can go to specific times and adjust your podcast. Another tip is to adjust the timing so you can see all of your audio. If you notice right now, I'm at the 15-second mark right here in this area. But if I adjust my slider, that gives me more time or less time. So right now I'm adjusting the slider. This gives me more leverage with my podcast. And if I move it to the right, notice it decreases the time. So now I'm at 5 seconds here. But if I move it all the way to the left, then I've got, say, the full 20 minutes here. Okay, so one of the first things you want to do is you want to have your Word document that has the times in terms of where you need to insert a question. So my first question is slated at the 32-second mark. For example, I'm going to show you this document here. So I need a marker at 032, 54, 112, 214. I'm only going to do 2 markers today. So the markers will be for what is the purpose of these fireside chats and what is the purpose for tonight's chat. So I'll go to the first track, which allows me to add a marker. All right, that first one should be at 32. So I'll move the scrub head down to 32 seconds. And I'll click add marker. And then I'll call it whatever the question is. What is the purpose of these fireside chats? So that's marker number 1. And then I need another marker at 54. So I'll move down to 54 seconds. And then I'll select add a marker. And the title of that one is called What is the Purpose of This Fireside Chat? And you have to do markers for every question. Click on the podcast track. You'll see your markers here. I only have 2, but you're going to have all of yours done, right? Great. Next, now we need to actually split the clips. And what I'll do is I'll click on my audio where the outlining the new deal is. I'll move my cursor or the scrub head to the beginning of that marker. And I'll go to edit, and split that clip. Then I'll move down, move to the next marker. And then I'll go up to edit and then split that clip. Oops. Gotta make sure that audio is highlighted. Edit, split clip. Or you can just do Command T. And now I've got these 2 items split. The next thing that I do is add my voice. So now that I'm ready to record my voice, I've got all the clips here split. I've only got 2. But I'm going to go to male voice, and I'll click on the mute so I don't hear FDR's voice. I only want to hear my voice. And I'll move all of my audio down. I've got markers, right? So I'll move my cursor here to this first marker. Make sure I'm on male voice track. Hit record. What is the purpose of these fireside chats? And I'll stop that. And I'm good. Back. So it lines up directly right after my question. I'll unmute. And then I'll move the scrub head back. Press play. Now I noticed there was a little bit of space, so I'll zoom in a little bit more. And now you're good. Done recording your voice, splitting all the clips. Then when you want to add artwork to your track, so first let's click on the podcast track, and then let's go over to your media button. Make sure your media button is selected. Click photos. Now, I believe that you've added maybe a picture of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then you just take that image. Once you've dropped it into iPhoto, you take that image and drag it to the episode artwork. Okay, so now we've added the episode artwork over here on the left-hand side. You also want to include artwork for each individual chapter. So I'll just take an image related to FDR. I'll take another image and just drop those right in there. And notice they also show up here in the podcast track. And that's an excellent way to use enhanced photographs in podcasts. All right, so once you're done, you want to send this to Mr. Penn. So what we want to do is we want to click share in the menu bar at the top. We've got 2 options, or 3 or 4 options. One is we can send the podcast straight to iTunes. But let's go ahead and just export podcast to disk. That will allow us to create either AAC or MP3. It doesn't matter. Both play on the Apple machine. I'll just change it to an MP3. I'll leave it as that's fine, a musical podcast or spoken podcast. It just changes some of the items in terms of the settings. And then I'll click export. I'll click continue. Save it to the desktop. And click save.